Electrifying, gritty, and unrealistic.
Welcome back to the Brave Files, everyone. This is Heather Vickery. I'm so excited to have you here with us. Okay, my beautiful brave hearts, I have a question for you. What type of relationship do you have with forgiveness? What about forgiving yourself? The work of forgiveness is something that shows up for me on a regular and consistent basis. In fact, it just reared its ugly head earlier this week, and I was reminded that forgiving myself is an ongoing process, and it should be for all of us. Today's guest says that the moment of real change for her was when she started forgiving herself for not being perfect. How many of you can relate to that? After chasing validation like it was a drug, Juliana Garcia discovered that living in a state of constant curiosity did in fact open her up to making mistakes and having what others might perceive as failures, but it also opens her up to learning opportunities and to the beauty, joy, and wonder of life. Juliana and I talk about learning to be our own cheerleaders, healing our inner child, and the freedom that comes with forgiveness, as well as so much more. You're going to love this conversation. She is absolutely brilliant. Stick with us all the way to the end. Today, I want to give a special thanks and shout out to Chris Davis for buying the coffee this week. If you've been inspired by this podcast or any of my content, you can also say thank you and buy me a coffee. Okay, fine, it's not really a coffee, it's a tip jar, and sometimes I use those tips to support my favorite local coffee shop. If you are inspired by the work that I do and would like to say thank you, you can do that by visiting vickeryandco.com/thanks. Not only will you get my undying gratitude, but everyone who buys me a coffee will get a shout out either in my newsletter, this podcast, or my weekly live show, Brave in Action. So be sure to tune into all of the different places so you can hear me sing your praises and say thank you. Again, if you want to say thank you and buy me a coffee, you can visit vickeryandco.com/say thanks. You're listening to The Brave Files, where we share stories from people who've stepped out of fear and into bravery in every possible way. What we know for sure is that when we choose bravely on purpose, we choose bigger, we win bigger, and it's contagious. It's our hope that these stories connect with you and encourage you to embrace bravery in every possible way, day after day. Together, we can build a movement that enriches both our lives and our communities. The Brave Files is brought to you by Vickery & Co., a success and leadership coaching firm dedicated to helping you build a life and a business that you are absolutely in love with. Vickery & Co. offers group programs, membership communities, one-on-one coaching, VIP days, corporate trainings, workshops, keynote speaking, and so much more. Visit vickeryandco.com to get all the details. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Brave Files. I'm so happy to be here with you today. When today's guest, Juliana Garcia, was growing up, she had a lot of questions, but asking those questions often led to punishment because Julia was supposed to just put her head down, do what she was told, not make mistakes, and never, ever question anything. But today, Juliana is an online entrepreneur with a multi-million-dollar business that she built out of curiosity. She pioneers a cutting-edge, client-centric approach that breaks the old-school marketing rules and focuses on selling through intimacy, integrity, strong mindset tools, and here's my favorite part, zero bullshit. She's here to share her personal brave journey with us, and what a journey it is. What a story. Juliana, welcome to the Brave Files.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm delighted to have you here. We've been going through the summer ringer to get in the same room to do this interview, so I'm really thrilled to have you here. Have you been enjoying your summer so far?
Oh my God, it's been so delightful and so delicious, full of love, full of adventures. It's been wild.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's the way life is supposed to be. Now you are a parent, right? You're a mother?
I am not a mother. I'm a mother of me.
You are a mother of you. All right.
I am the mother I always Needed. The whole time, I probably give mother feels because I have reparented myself so well. So I am the mother of meme.
Oh, I love that. Well, that was why I asked the question. And I guess I didn't, I read all of this stuff about you and I just made an assumption, which is so silly. We shouldn't do that. But I wanted to specifically ask about your relationship with your mother, your childhood, because foundationally, we talked about it. I talked about it in the short intro. You were really raised to shut up and be perfect. Can you speak on that for a little bit and how that shaped you? And
oh my God, absolutely. I mean, I think that people look at me now, and if you ever come across me on social media or even in real life, I'm the same person, but people see me as a really confident person that is very certain in herself. And when I was little, when I was younger, I couldn't, I was so different because when I grew up, my mom took this kind of curiosity that I had around why is the world that way? Like I always was just curious, asking why? And she shut it down. She never liked it. Mm-hmm. And the fascinating thing is that the more that she said that I shouldn't be asking why, the more that I was like, but why? Like, it's like it did not help the situation.
Absolutely.
And on top of that, she really wanted me to be the best in school. Like she was never good in, like a good student, but she wanted me to be great. And so I developed this belief system that unless I had straight A's, I wouldn't be loved because I would be punished if I got everything like, stars and my admiration from every teacher. It wouldn't be enough if I got one B. It just wouldn't be enough, and good for her. And I didn't just get punished. I mean, I come from South America, so I'm Colombian, and the cultural, the parenting styles there are very different from America. I mean, there, you getting beat up, it's normal. It's not a big deal. And so I would get, there was just a lot of physical and mental abuse that I experienced that I started to normalize because that's what I thought everybody would go through. Yeah. And so I grew up with this mentality of I have to be perfect, right? If I don't get straight A's, if I'm not the best, then I'm not lovable. And I shouldn't be questioning authority. I shouldn't be asking why too much, which is so completely different than who I am today. It's like, so that's a little bit of the backstory of how it was in my childhood.
It's so interesting. Perfectionism is such a dangerous, scary path to go on. And we somehow end up there on occasion because of somebody else's fears. Do you feel, I don't know what kind of adult relationship you have with your mother or if you have one at all, but as a mother myself with 4 children, I think, she was afraid of you getting hurt. But I don't know, maybe she was just mentally unwell or just evil or I don't know. I don't know your mother. Yeah. But I wonder because so often we try to help other people, but we screw it up by putting our fears on them.
Yeah. I mean, I realized that what happened with her is she had me when she was 18. And I mean, I can think of myself when I was 18, I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, I was really brave. So when I was 17, I moved to Australia by myself. And that's not something that every human does. It's not just like your regular kind of life. So I know that I was a very mature young girl from the very beginning. I grew up with adults my whole life. So I didn't really have cousins, brothers, sisters. I was always very mature, kind of like never really childish, I could never throw tantrums, But when I was 17, I was still a child, and I moved all the way to right? And you consider them like your child. Yeah. And at the time when I was 17 and I turned 18 in Australia for the first time, like by myself, I just couldn't imagine having a child, like a kid. And one of the really fascinating things is when I started doing personal development when I was 21 and I went to a program called Landmark. I don't know, the Landmark Forum. I imagine a lot of people know about it. Yep. One of the realizations that I had was that my mom was doing the best she could with what she had at 18 as a mother. And she just had no idea how to parent. like no idea.
Yeah.
And I resented that for so long because I wanted my mom to be my rock, to give me advice, to be there for me, to be a mother, but she just didn't know how. And even when I was in Australia on my own, building my own life, I'm like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out in the world, like, who am I? I'm 19, 18. Like, I live in a whole other country, a whole other language. I didn't know anything. And she just was never the type of mom that would give me advice and be like, here's some life advice that I can give you.
Because she didn't have any.
She was just like, okay, well, you did this thing. Like, if you leave, you're out. She was like, if you leave this house, you're done. Like, goodbye. And I was like, okay, because I can't quite survive here. I can't live a healthy life here because I was always in conflict with her. And now we have I think that moving to Australia and building my own life and going to 54 countries and building my own business and having 3 different passports, which is everything that I have done so far.
Wow.
It's been the best thing for us because now we get along. And now I really have gone on this personal development journey to help me understand myself and understand her better. So things are really great. But in the beginning, I definitely had a lot of resentment.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, understanding what motivates people to mistreat us doesn't excuse the mistreatment. Mm-hmm. But what I've found is that it helps in the forgiveness, which is a personal freedom tool. What kind of relationship do you have with forgiveness?
I mean, the moment when forgiveness really hit home for me was when I stopped trying to forgive others. And because I was like layer 1, but really when I started forgiving myself.
Yes.
For being so unkind to myself, for being so harsh on myself, for having such high expectations of myself. And I forgave myself by noticing that I only picked this up from my childhood, from my upbringing. And I released all the pressure that I had put on myself to be this excellent, perfect little girl and woman and entrepreneur and all the things. And I keep doing it. I mean, this is not a thing that you forgive once and then you're good.
Yeah,
I mean, I keep every day we do things that are sometimes not very kind. And I'm just so aware when I slip sometimes into, oh, you could have done a better job. Oh, you could have done it. Oh, you didn't hit your goal. Oh, I'm like, oh my God, honey. I mean, this morning I just woke up and I'm like, because right now I'm really healing my heart from a breakup that just happened literally last week. And it's just the most important relationship that I get to have is with my inner child. And I was like, why aren't you over this already? It's been 5 days. And I'm like, oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for rushing you and for asking so much of you. This is such a hard time. This is such a, it's very difficult to fall in love and to know that it's not the right path, and this is all a lot, and just that tenderness and that asking myself to forgive me, asking her to forgive me for being not very kind sometimes is honestly a daily practice. I don't think that there is a day that doesn't go by where I'm like, ooh, sorry, that was not what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my gosh, I really love that though. I talk a lot about, words matter and limiting voices and saying things in a way that feel good when they land, whether they're to me or someone else. We don't talk enough about the fact that we're going to make mistakes. We're going to say shitty things to ourselves and others, and we're going to push ourselves too hard. And I love this visual I have of you sort of walking through your day and saying, oh man, I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry I did that to you. And you're talking to yourself. I mean, what a graceful, generous way to move through, because it's a freedom technique.
Oh, totally. I mean, I was thinking about it this morning as I was getting ready for this podcast. I was thinking how much when I do that, when I don't forget to do that, I feel like a huge sense of I have my own back. Like I got me. I don't really need the outside, a friend or a client or the ex-boyfriend or the mom or anyone. I really don't really need them to reflect back to me, you're good. I love you. You're doing great. Because really, it's me. I was thinking about that this morning. I'm like, what would I love my ex to say to me right now?
That's a great question.
What would I just love for them to say?
What was the answer?
And I love you. You're amazing. And because we had such a beautiful relationship where we built each other up so much. And I wanted to tell him, I'm like, oh, I'm excited about this. I'm nervous about this. I'm looking forward to this. And I'm like, I just wanted to text him and call him and say whatever. And I know he wants that too. And so I was like, okay, but what would I want him to share? What is it? And everything he always said, he's like, you're so brilliant. You've got this. You're so extraordinary. Like, he would always just build me up. And I'm like, well, I can do it to myself. Like, I don't need to wait for somebody to hear from somebody else. And one of my biggest addictions in life, I have, gone through a really tough life in terms of childhood and experiences and having to do it all myself and building my own life and going from one country to another and having dreams and desires. But one of the biggest things that, I didn't go down the rabbit hole of being a drug addict, luckily,
right.
Or not that there's anything wrong with that and whatever, that's another conversation. But I could have done that. What I did instead is I developed an addiction for validation.
From other people, outside sources? Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I wanted to feel validated. That was my secret drug of choice my whole life. And so, it's kind of like other people are addicted to drugs. I was addicted to validation. And that has been like my detox my whole life. Ever since I turned about 22, I had that awareness. And as an entrepreneur, it became even more heightened. And that's when I was like, oh, this is an actual addiction. Like, I want it, I crave it, I feel it. If I don't get it, I need it. And that's one of the reasons why I'll tell you later when we talk about the Expose Your Truth challenge and all of that. That's when I really broke through that addiction to validation. And I notice it, how it wants to come back, how sometimes it shows up. And I just remember, oh, this is something that I get to give myself. I'm not fully giving it to me. And so that's where the most important, healthy, cleanest source of validation, it's only through me.
Wow. Yes. The awareness changes everything. So when we learn those things about ourselves, when you recognize, like, this is what I'm addicted to, and it's what I'm seeking and working towards, and then you go, okay, now I can see that pattern of behavior. How else can I get it? It's similar to what would I want him to say to me? I can say that to myself.
Yeah.
That's so empowering for people to be able to do for themselves. I have, with the Brave method, it's my coaching method and program. The E is for expand and empower. And I like to remind people that empowerment is inside work. And that's exactly what you're doing. Like, no one can give you that. It became an addiction for you. You thought that validation was empowering you and really was holding you back. Yeah.
Yeah, because when you don't get, it's great when you have it. It's kind of like money, right? It's like, ooh, great. I am making multimillion-dollar. I am having $200,000 a month, and this has just become the reality, and this is how my life is. And then what happens if you don't have a $3 million business? What happens in the month when you make $70,000 instead of $200,000? What happens the month when you make $0? Like, what happens? It's all external feedback that we're waiting to receive in order to feel a certain way. And that's when it becomes dangerous. That is the most dangerous part of business, of life, is waiting for the thing to happen in order for us to decide how we want to feel about ourselves.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting, one of the things I wanted to chat with you about was communicating. Do you feel like you were always a good communicator? I know that you're inquisitive and you have such great questions and you want to know more. those things tie in. What's your relationship like with communication?
So because my mom was always telling me not to ask too many questions and don't ask why, I really didn't share. I didn't ask too much. I didn't, So, and also I recognized that our communication was so poor. We just didn't hear each other. It was just not flowing. So I grew up with this desire to be able to be understood, to be able to be heard, and to be able to have a calm, harmonious conversation where we got to understand each other's worlds. And because I never had that in my family. And so I developed I moved to Australia. I was in a completely different culture. I started studying marketing. I studied traveling the world, all because I got scholarships and I was just the best student. Thank God, made a lot of money when I was a student. Thank you to the Australian government. And what I did, I traveled the world on my own, and I just asked questions, and I got to understand people's worlds, and I developed this really heightened sense or ability to empathize. And empathy is one of my superpowers, I would say, especially in the work that I do, because I am able to articulate the message that somebody wants to share in the world in a way that they've tried for years to say it, but it doesn't quite land the way they want to hear it. And there's something in me that I've developed from all of the lack of communication, and from being in communication with so many humans in so many cultures and so many circumstances, and from being in a lot of conflict and difficult situations where communication was the only way through. Like, I had to master the art of understanding each other and humans in order to be able to get to be understood and to survive, moments. And so that's why the work that I do in the world is it has to do with communicating your value, communicating your offers, communicating in your marketing, communicating on a sales call, communicating everything. And to me, communication is one of my top values. It's so essential for us to walk through life in harmony.
So what are your core beliefs with communication? Like, I don't know how I want to ask that question. For some people, communicating is talking. It's setting boundaries. I mean, all of those things are important. And for others, communicating is listening, asking better questions. Like for you, and we said at the beginning of the show that you have a multimillion-dollar marketing business, and you're telling us the bedrock of it is communication. So what kind of communication leads to a multimillion-dollar business?
Well, what a question that is. I was not prepared for that one. No one has ever asked me that, but let me feel into it.
That's what I try to do around here.
What was the question one more time? What kind of communication
leads to a multimillion-dollar business?
Okay, got it. Yeah. So for me, the kind of communication that leads to a multimillion-dollar business is a communication where you are more interested in the other person's world versus just being stuck in your own. And interested by that, I mean curious.
Yeah.
Because I didn't build a multimillion-dollar business by focusing on myself. I built a multimillion-dollar business by focusing on what other people were feeling, and how could I create and provide value to their lives based on my gifts. So for me, understanding the other person's worlds, this is what I do in my sales calls. This is when I don't do sales calls anymore, but what I teach, and what got me to not needing to do sales calls and having such high demand for my offer. It's because every time that somebody got on the phone, I would just focus on understanding their world. And this is in life too. If you are ever in a fight with your husband or in a conversation with somebody, and there's some kind of disagreement, the most important thing that you can do to disarm that and to really get to a solution and to put your ego away, which is the hardest part, is just to ask questions about how they feel. How do you feel? How did that land? I want to understand more of your world. Tell me more. I want to get that. Because even if you don't agree, that other person Nobody in the world does this, by the way. Like very few people.
I like it a lot.
It's like nobody does this. Everybody wants to do what when they're in a disagreement?
They want to defend themselves.
Right. They want to stand in there. They want to plant their flag and they want to say, here's my case. And they're ready to tell you all the things that they prepared thinking about it in the shower, like, this is what I'm going to say about this. And it's like, I'm here to hear you. If you're the type of the person that shows up in the conversation saying, I just genuinely want to know how you felt. I care about you. So I'm curious what came up for you. Or in business, it sounds like you need support with attracting clients and with your message. I'm curious, how does that feel for you to not be able to attract clients? What have you tried before? Tell me more. What are the things that feel heavy right now for you? Right? Like just being in the curiosity, that begins the communication. Like it allows the communication floodgates to open, and it creates a dynamic where you actually get more informed about their world, and then it's much easier to come up with a solution because you're no longer making assumptions of what you think the other person needs, and then maybe prescribing them something. If you're a business owner that they're like, actually I don't need this, of course then you lose the sale because like they're like, you're cool, but like that's not what I needed, and you made assumptions about what they needed, right?
Yes. Yeah. Questions trump assumptions. Stop making them.
1,000,000%.
I tell all my clients, especially my leadership clients, my corporate leaders, start asking more questions and start listening more and stop just talking. If you do anything else, if you don't take anything else away from the work, just stop telling people what to do all the time, ask more questions, and actually listen. So Juliana, what led you? You left home at 17, you went to Australia, which is so brave. I mean, I'm just thinking, gosh, about my own children. And first of all, the mama bear in me is like, oh my God, that would be, it would be killing me. But they would be fine. Things work out. But you did that, and you've traveled, you said, I think, to 54 different countries, which is incredible. How did you end up in the marketing arena?
Well, I went to Australia to study marketing. So that was always my thing because of the communication thing, right? I was like, communication in business, that must be a good thing. Let's go. That's all. that was my train of thought when I was 17. And so I was there and I started my first company, which was a software company from scratch without an idea, any coding skills or any funding. I signed up for like a coaching program, essentially, that teaches you how to do that. And I was one of the success stories in that program, but I didn't love software. Software was not my passion. I was always the type of friend that people would come to for coaching. I mean, I helped my mom with her coaching through her divorce. I mean, I was just like the coach ever since I was little. And so I didn't know anything about coaching until I joined that program, and I became kind of like coaching the program. And I told the founder of the program, I want to become a coach. I would love to be a coach. I don't know if software is my thing, even though like I did the whole thing and I created the company, whatever. And he's like, Juliana, don't become a coach. Coaches don't make money.
Unaligned, poor coaches don't make money.
And I was like, oh, really? Okay, I won't become a coach. Okay, because I thought this guy knows. So listening to authority and thinking they know better than me, which was a trauma response to being my mom, like remembering authority, my mom, do whatever she says, right? And so I didn't have my confidence at the time. So I instead decided that I was not going to become a coach because they're broke. And instead, I was going to create a marketing agency where I would do marketing for coaches. And I did very well, except I was burned out. And I was doing basically running ads, doing launches, and with like multimillion-dollar like budgets. I was behind the scenes of the movie Think and Grow Rich and launching that, and just really cool, epic projects. But I was doing it for people, and I wanted to teach coaches how to fish. I didn't want to just go fishing for the coaches. Yeah. And also I just love coaching. I love coaching people in their mindset, and so I decided, so after 2 years of doing the agency thing and not feeling delicious, I was burned out, but I was so scared. I was so scared to come out of the gate and say, I am a coach. that felt like the hardest thing ever, because I felt like people were going to judge me, criticize me, think, oh my God, you're another coach. Okay, all right. You're one of the social media Facebook coaches. And my friends are so successful that they were making fun of coaches. So I was like, oh my God, I don't want to be, they're going to make fun of me. What am I going to think? And I spent like a whole 2 years in that drama of wishing I could do the damn thing, not doing the damn thing because I was scared that people would judge me. And then one day I had an idea in the shower, and the idea was expose 30 truths about yourself in 30 days. I'm like, what? I mean, it was totally divinely guided.
It's just like a big download. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a Sunday. I was in the shower. It was like 5 p.m. And I was like, came out of the shower wearing a towel, not even getting dressed. And I was like, I got to do this now, otherwise I'm never going to do it. And I just announced it. And I said, as of tomorrow, I am going to expose 30 truths about myself for 30 days. And the intention is for those of you who align with what I share to stick around. And for those of you who don't, to feel free to exit my world.
Move on. Yeah.
And what I want to share is all the lessons that I've learned around marketing, mindset, sales, so that you can benefit from that. And I can tell you that after that 30-day Expose Your Truth challenge, after 30 days, I made the most money I had ever made with the easiest, lightest load of work, because I was sharing the lessons. I was showing up as an expert, but also as a human. And people started reaching out to me. Hey, I want your help with this. I want your help with that. I want your help with this. And I signed $15,000 to me as a one-on-one client was a lot.
Sure. It is.
And even now it is. And I was like, but I had to work so hard for that in my agency. So it was just like, what? Coaching? What do you mean? And I mean, now my prices are like, it's $100,000 for my one-on-one coaching. I mean, I have grown a lot, but at the time it was like, I cannot believe this is happening. And that's really what started the journey of me owning my voice and being brave and exposing my truth and leading with authenticity, and also with leadership and thought leadership. And that's, the beginning of how I started my coaching business.
I love that. I mean, what I heard you say just now was by being vulnerable and honest and putting your truth out there, the right people were attracted to that, and they saw your strengths and they said, let's go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It gets to be simple.
I know. And we like to remind people that simple isn't easy.
Right.
It's just simple. Because showing up like that every day for 30 days, those are the kinds of things that my inner voice is like, well, you can't do that unless you look perfect. And I don't always want to have my hair and makeup done and look great. And can you really show up, when you've just rolled out of bed? And how did you deal with that?
I mean, I think this is such a beautiful conversation. I'm so glad you asked me that, because it was just written content. So it wasn't live, it wasn't video.
I don't know why I just assumed it was video. I guess this was before video was the it thing.
Yeah, it was. I think live streams at the time were not a thing, but it was written content, and now it's a guide. So like, if anyone wants the guide, we're more than happy to share it with everybody. Like it went viral. Over 7,000 people have joined. It's amazing. But it's all written content and prompts. And so what I did is I just sat down every single day in the morning when I have my clearest thoughts, and I just started saying something that felt hard to share. And I just didn't edit myself. And I sometimes started in some kind of angle and I ended up in a different thing. But what I developed was self-discipline and self-love, because for me, the most important thing was I want to be my word. This is not for other people, even if nobody likes it, nobody comments. It really didn't start as a way to get clients, by the way. It just started as a way for me to break through that fear of showing up and owning myself as a coach and owning myself as a thought leader and owning myself as like, here's my voice. So it was nothing to do with clients. It was just, let me share with you some stories. It just so it happens that people were like, I want to buy from you. And so every day for me was just sacred to just get it done. Just say the thing. Just be gentle and loving with yourself as you write these words, because they could be better, they could be perfect, we could totally talk about another thing and 100 other things, but that's not the point. The point is show up for you, Juliana. And that was my only commitment. I'm like, I'm doing this for me, even though it's been 3 hours and I still can't figure out what I'm gonna say. But I was like, I'm not gonna go to bed unless I've posted this. I'm just not I'm not gonna go to bed. And sometimes it was like Sunday at 2 p.m. and my ex-boyfriend wanted to hang out and cook lunch and this. And I'm like, I get it. And I'm going to show up for me and complete this and let it be simple. And I'm just going to say the damn thing. And it took me maybe sometimes 4 hours, sometimes 20 minutes. I was at events. I mean, I just did not let anything get in the way, because I think that's the point where I really committed to myself more than my excuses.
Yeah, I love that. What so many folks, though, that I know would say, well, just pre-schedule those 30 truths. Just decide. So what I'm hearing you say is that you did not have preconceived plans. You showed up every day and said, what's my truth today?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Eventually it became like, now I have a whole system and a content schedule, and I teach my clients, and now it's like a thing, and we schedule it. We have a system now, but this was like I think that's what people get caught up with. Like, give me the ABC, the schedule, the prompts, the like organization, and it's like, yeah, okay, but then I give it to you and then you still are frozen.
Right.
You still don't take the action. And so I think this is why the 30-day Expose Your Truth challenge is such a liberation for people, because they feel like, okay, I just need to think about one thing and just hit publish, and that's it. It's not about making the perfect 7-figure funnel. It's not about making like it's like all of that is what complicates the beginning. And I just needed that time to just get into momentum.
Yeah. Now you guide others in doing the 30-day truth challenge now, right? Or you have a opt-in, people listening. Can you tell folks what that looks like, how they can get involved? I'm like, all right, Brave Files listeners, who wants to do this with me? Let's all do it together.
Oh my God, absolutely.
And we can have a cheering squad.
Yes, it's so good. So you can go to julianagarcia.com/exposed, and you'll download the guide. And the guide gives you so first of all, I want to say I didn't have prompts, right? I didn't have prompts when I did it. I just showed up. But for a whole year, people were asking me how did you do that? How did you do that? I'm like, I don't know. I just showed up every day. And they're like, do you have prompts? And I didn't. So I went and checked all of my posts and I created prompts based on each one of the days. And so you will have all those prompts and kind of storytelling ideas, so that, and you will have the example of my post, so you can download that. And then recently, I think like a year ago, I added 12 extra prompts for if you have a service that you sell, or if you have anything that you wanna that you wanna sell. Those 12 prompts are more sales focused, or ways that you can make an offer and things like that. But that was really just. This is like 3 years after I did the first Expose Your Truth version. So you get that. It's really simple. It's just a PDF guide, and it's just so powerful. And I also teach you 5 content writing secrets to help you move through sharing vulnerable things with elegance, because that's a big part of sharing our story. It's not just like, I don't know what your stance is on this, so maybe we disagree on this, or maybe we agree, but I don't believe that your mess is your message. I think a lot of people say that, and I really believe that there are so many gold nuggets in our story, in the messy parts, but also it's really important that if we are thought leaders, if we're coaches, if we're leaders, that we learn to share that in a way that empowers others, not that dumps on them, that dumps their our own unresolved stuff or blame, like that we do it in an energy from a responsible and clean energetic space. And so it's important to know how to share with elegant vulnerability, which is something that I teach you inside of the guide, and it's a concept that I created, trademarked, and is like a whole thing. People come to me to learn elegant vulnerability, because it is important to be vulnerable, but it's also important to do it with elegance, so that people see you also as a trusted leader and somebody that can guide them.
I love that. It's important to share with elegant vulnerability to be a respected leader. That's rich. That's juicy. I like that a lot. Since you had this breakthrough moment and everything sort of took off from there, what has been the biggest struggle? I always like to talk about, I'm a positive thinker. I'm certified in positive psychology. We always talk about what's great, but I often think we can't get to what's great unless we're honest about what's not great.
So what is the biggest struggle? That's what you're asking me.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for me is being in the dance of the unknown. Even when there is a lot of certainty in my life. I mean, now that we have a multimillion-dollar business, there's a lot of certainty, but there's also a lot of uncertainty. And so for me, the biggest struggle has been trusting, like developing this delusion of, I believe in me. I believe that I don't know what will happen tomorrow or in a year from today, but what I am certain about is who I am today, and that I will not... That I can trust that I can trust that I will rebuild if I need, or that I will have my own back, that if I have my heart broken, I will be there for me. And being in that, like, that dance with the unknown, like, I don't know, we don't know what's gonna happen in the next hour. We don't know what's gonna happen next month. We think we know, we have plans, we have visions. We're like, yeah,
it's good to plan with flexibility.
Love to plan. Look, you should see my whiteboard here. I have everything planned from beginning to end. And then life happens. And then it's like, oh, I didn't expect that. And so it's in that, I think the biggest thing for me has been to learn to dance with the unknown and be in a space of curiosity and joy, even if it feels like I have all the reasons to like lose it and throw the towel and be like, you know, like today, full transparency, you know, I've been handling this or dealing with this heartbreak, and I'm like, the last thing I want to do is now show up and be like, I got this, let me teach you some things. And then because I was unprepared. I was unprepared for this breakup to happen. And I also get to show up for me, have my back, and then find the delight in the moment of, yes, my heart is breaking. And yes, I have so much to share. And this is a beautiful moment. And I'm so excited for this. And I get to feel all of it.
I just wanted to pause so that could just sit with everyone. Because the last thing you said was, and I get to feel all of it. And that we skip that part so often because we don't want to feel the icky parts. But we cannot fully appreciate the wonderful parts if we haven't experienced the icky ones. And you get to feel all of it. And being honest about it is again, it's another freedom technique. I love that. To me, there's a lot to celebrate in that. And so one of my favorite questions I ask every week, and I get so tickled by everyone's answers, is for you, Juliana, how do you celebrate?
Oh my God, how do I celebrate? Okay, so the first thing is that I celebrate because I love validation. You know how the first thing was I always wanted to call a friend and tell them to or be like, oh my God, this happened, oh my God, and then feel their celebration. And then I realized that and then I kept calling the next friend, and then the next friend, and the next friend. So I realized, wait, I'm missing the point here. I first get to celebrate with me and celebrate my inner child and my future self and my present self. So all of us, we hold hands and we have a party inside, right? Where we all just hug each other and adore each other and praise each other for whatever the thing is, right? If it was a big business win, if it was a difficult conversation that we had, anything for me is internal, right? For me is internal celebration. And then once I've really let that like sink into my bones and I could be without the external celebration, I call a friend. I love sharing wins. I love being witnessed in winning. And I think for a lot of people, that's a little bit confronting to hear. They don't really like to brag, they say, or they don't like to tell people about it or post about it or anything. I am very open with my wins. I'm very open because I think being witnessed in your winning, it just gives people the example of that's possible for them too. Like you are an example of what's possible when you own your win. And so I really think he's robbing people from the experience of seeing what's possible. And that's selfish to me. And so I like to share it with people that I care about close to me. And then more like if I desire like share socially, publicly, that's less important to me now, but I think is for me in experiencing it internally.
I love that. I love that whole process. Right. Fully immersing yourself in whatever it is. And then I say the same thing about bravery, which is that when we choose bravely on purpose, we choose bigger, win bigger, and it's contagious. And so when you say, being witness to your winning allows others to believe what's possible, that's that contagious growth component. They can see that for themselves. And when they're earlier in their journey, maybe they will see it as bragging, and maybe they will say, well, I could never do that. But somehow the seed has been planted. Well, somebody's done that. Maybe one day 100%. I can. So yeah, gosh, I love that. I could keep talking to you forever because I just think you're so joyful and brave and brilliant and filled with insight and knowledge, but it's a podcast episode, so we have to be respectful of timing. So there are just a couple more questions I want to ask. And one is if folks are just looking to sort of get started on this path of curiosity, on this path of elegant vulnerability, where would you suggest they start?
Well, I would say that the best place is to hop in on the Expose Your Truth Challenge, because I teach you all about elegant vulnerability there. And it also gives you the playground to be curious around the gifts that you have to share with the world, the stories that are so important for your people to hear. And it's a self-healing journey, right? It's really, it's not really writing content, that's the result, but really internally is really looking at what has happened in the past and how to learn from that and share the powerful lessons. And that it requires a lot of curiosity. And so I would say start there.
Gosh. Yeah, I love that. I think that's excellent. You want to remind everybody again what that web link is?
Yeah, Juliana Garcia. So Juliana, my name, Garcia, GARCIA /exposed.
Exposed with an ED, folks.
ED.
Just so you can, if you're rushing to write it down really quickly or anything like that right now.
Exposed.
Juliana, we believe here at the Brave Files, I believe deeply in my heart and soul that when we come together as a collective community to raise each other up and support one another, we're just a healthier global community. And so I am excited to ask you, what is your favorite charitable organization to support?
I love this question because I can't say it in English, but I love dogs. I love just animals. And so I donate to a dog shelter in Colombia, where I'm from, called Peluditos de Colombia, which means the furry ones from Colombia.
I love it. The furry ones of Colombia.
The furry ones of Colombia. And I love saving dogs. And I also donate to the Innocence Project, which I don't know if you've heard about it, but it just helps. Yeah. Okay,
but I would love for you to tell everybody else the Innocence Project is really, really, really powerful.
Yeah, it's just basically, I mean, in simple words, basically, it's an organization that helps people who are incarcerated or wrongly incarcerated, and helps them with their cases and get out. So that's what I really support that.
It's really important because that's unfortunately a truth for so many people, especially here in the United States, but probably everywhere. Oh my goodness. Juliana, will you share your 3 words with us one last time?
Oh my God, absolutely. So electrifying, gritty, and unrealistic.
Electrifying, gritty, and unrealistic. Yeah. I mean, I'm here for all of it. You are definitely electrifying, although I have to laugh because now I've heard you say this a couple of times. I thought you said greedy, but you said gritty, Gritty. Yeah?
Gritty.
Gritty. Yeah.
Gritty. Greedy is my accent. He's my accent.
Well, you know what though? I'm here for it. I was like, okay, let's let's explore that, because I think that we can reclaim words.
This is one of the things that happens when you listen to me. You'll see how I say words, and it's just super cute.
I love it. No, you are definitely gritty. I love it. And Grit, that's one of my favorite books. Angela Duckworth's book, Grit, is incredible. And then Unrealistic. And let's just talk about that for 1 second, because we wanted to get creative. You had 3 words. You can share what those are. And we landed on Unrealistic. And I'd love to just hear you speak to that quickly.
Well, I think that my story is an example of what is possible. And I believe that we have to be a little bit delusional to believe in ourselves and our vision and who we want to become and what we want to create. And I just believe that being unrealistic, not living in the reality that we currently have or that we see other people have, but really in the reality that we want to live. And that can feel unrealistic and delusional and kind of wild. And that is the world that I live in. And that is how I was able to go from being a little girl in Colombia with an abusive mother, not knowing what to do with my life, to building a $3 million company that helps the world and having one of the richest lives that I've ever heard about. So being unrealistic has really served me.
I love that. I really love that. I was telling you earlier that I have added into my bio that I'm an achiever of unrealistic dreams. So I feel that. And when and I'm sure you do this with clients also, when I work with people and we start with visualizing and we start with dreaming, I said, don't put a ceiling on yourself. This isn't about what's possible. It's not about how much can you afford it? Do you have the time? Like, let's just go all in, and it doesn't have to be realistic, because that's how we manifest. Oh my goodness. Well, I just think you're amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your joy and your experience with us. I am hoping we can get a group of people together to do the Truth Challenge. I think that'd be so much fun to do a Brave Files podcast collective. We'll see if we get any traction on that.
Oh, absolutely. And you guys can, there's a Facebook group for it, or if you want to have your own group, totally fine too. But there's a whole community of people who have done it. And if you even look up the hashtag, it's like so many posts that people have posted. So if you need me to show you the way, I'm happy to support.
Thank you so much, Juliana. Thank you for being here. I am so happy to be in your sphere with all of your wonderful energy.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
All right, folks. Well, I'm lit up. I hope that you are too. And I want to know about your truths. I want to know about what your relationship is with curiosity and questioning and this concept of elegant vulnerability. How beautiful is all of that? So make sure you let me know what resonated with you. You can do that by emailing me, heather@vickeryandco.com, or find us on Instagram at the Brave Files Podcast and send me a DM and let me know. I would love to hear about it. Between now and the next time I talk to you, I have one big favor. Would you go onto either Apple Podcast or Spotify and leave a review of the show? It really helps people search for us and find us. And also, it just kind of makes me feel really good. So I would love to have you do that. In the meantime, this is Heather Vickery reminding you today and every single day to go out and choose bravely. Bye now. You've been listening to The Brave Files, stories of people living courageously. Visit us at thebravefilespodcast.com to learn more about the show, find our show notes, and access full episode transcripts. And we'd love to know what you think of the show. We invite you to connect with us via Instagram and send a DM. You'll find us at The Brave Files Podcast on Instagram. Our music was created and produced in a custom collaboration with Matt Lewis from ML Creative Consulting, a boutique firm dedicated to helping clients identify their unique sound and amplify their brand with custom-delivered soundtracks. Special thanks to everyone on Team Brave, from our audio engineer to our producers, associate producers, copy editors, writers, and support team. The show wouldn't exist without them, and we are eternally grateful. I'm your host and executive producer, Heather Vickery. Thanks for tuning in.